Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. My part of this presentation is to sort of set the stage to let you know where Feed All 4 was born from. Feed All 4 has become a way of being in Trillium Lakelands District School Board, and we want to share it with you today. So most of you who are involved with education, some who are not, would know that the Ministry of Education always had 3 goals, and the fourth goal that came out in 2014 was around the promotion of well-being. And we think that this is the most exciting thing that's really happened in education in a long time, because it's given us explicit permission to focus on this area in schools. We are embedded every day in research when we talk about Feed All 4 and as a team and in our schools, and we have brought researchers into our schools and to speak to our principals about all the well-being statistics around well-being that are out there right now. Some of the things you'll see on the screen around social emotional learning, the importance of sleep in a child's life, all of these things affect how a student achieves and focuses and manages throughout the day. So here's where we started with the Feed All 4 model. We started with the medicine wheel. Hundreds of years old, based in First Nations cultures, speaking to the whole notion of balance and the whole person. So what we are speaking about is body, mind, spirit, and emotions. It can also be used to represent many other things, the 4 directions, sacred medicines, etc. But for our purposes, we are talking about the whole person. And then we incorporated Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Go back to Psych 101, you'll remember Maslow. And one of the things you'll remember about him is that in order for a student or any of us to access higher critical thinking, prior knowledge, we need to have our basic needs met. And here's our model. So we're going to go through each quadrant and discuss them more explicitly. Cheryl.
Thank you, Heather. Screen's gone. So when we're talking about healthy emotions really ultimately allow us to think critically and to self-regulate. And we look at Feed All 4 as being a true investment in our young people to develop wellness and to develop mentally healthy skills that will lead them and work into mentally healthy adults. When you get a cold, you start to get some symptoms of a cold. You might be feeling sniffly. You run out, you buy your hand sanitizer. You might stock up on vitamin C and start to get a lot of rest because you want to prevent yourself from getting sick. We view Feed All 4 as a very similar model in that we know that 1 in 5 statistic, 1 in 5 of our young people are diagnosed with a mental health illness or suffer from issues surrounding addiction. More recent statistic actually has suggested that 1 in 3 of Ontario students indicate elevated psychological distress. So the concept and focus behind this is to ensure that our young people are not getting ill, and we're working it off prevention. Journaling, mindfulness, yoga, and even laughter have been proven scientifically to be very positive measures and positive treatments for individuals with illness. We know that a number of those programs have huge benefit. However, we're also learning the very strong importance of connections with our students, and providing a very safe and connected environment is critical. Our students are telling us time and time again, don't forget or don't look at me and pretend you're not seeing me struggle. To the other end of the spectrum of teachers who are clearly seeing the needs of our students and making the time to connect. Students are telling us with these teachers that they are allowing them to have time for additional exercises to ensure that they get their assignments done, and ultimately allowing them time for check-in. Dr. Jean Clinton, Dr. Bruce Ferguson, among many others, have really highlighted the importance of the relationship and how critical that relationship piece is in terms of our student wellness. We are hearing once again from the broader perspective of our students that the relationships are critical. We know as teachers as well that we get to know and commit to our student abilities, commit to their strengths by knowing who they are, knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and programming accordingly. We also know that the higher the benchmark we set for our kids, the more and higher level of achievement we're going to see with them. And also just identifying and focusing on student voice, which is an absolutely critical element. Valuing student opinions and truly listening to what they have to say, because adults don't always know the answers. Sometimes what we think is best for students isn't quite the path that is necessary. When we consider the mind, we truly are thinking about cognition and learning. And a healthy mind does really allow us to be able to perform academically in the classroom. There is so much research available in terms of neurocognition at the moment and neuroplasticity. The brain is incredibly changeable, and yet we don't look at the brain and the necessity of exercising our brain as much as we do our bodies. We also know that there are a number of very critical learning traits that our kids must have in order to succeed. If we consider perseverance, or we consider resilience, innovation, being creative, all of those are critical, and just for our students to feel safe and to feel challenged. But a lot of these traits cannot necessarily be taught, but they can be taught. If the students are in a very caring and nurturing and safe environment, they feel safe to take risks. They feel safe to be able to potentially fail and pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and try again. And finally, we can't not discuss staff wellness, which is absolutely critical. That 1 in 5 statistic we referred to earlier is not just specific to our youth, it also involves our adults in our buildings. Therefore, we really highlight this as being important because we know more and more our teachers are being faced as frontline workers for a lot of our youth who are coming to them with stories and disclosures. So we want to make sure that our staff are taking care of themselves to ensure that they are well. And asking as well, what environment am I actually providing, or what environment am I creating in my classroom to promote wellness?
When we're talking body well-being, we're talking about stimulating and regulating our brain through our body wellness. So as we consider the context of body wellness, it's so important to consider and think about the context with which we find our kids every single day and the challenges that they face in terms of their overall physical well-being. Participaction puts out an annual report card which gives us a broad-based look at a child's overall physical activity level and well-being, which becomes a critical lens by which we understand the imperative of our work in terms of supporting body well-being. This report card's been out for about 11 years, and for 7 of those years, Canadian kids were getting a letter grade of F. The last 4 years, it's improved to a D-, but it clearly is still below an acceptable level. What are the challenges that our kids facing? Well, 9% of our kids between the ages of 5 and 12 are actually getting and achieving their 60 minutes of physical activity a day. When kids hit the age of 12 and as teenagers, that number drops to 4%. Kids are sedentary. We're in not only a global crisis of inactivity, but a global crisis of sedentary behavior. And that sedentary behavior is becoming significant in terms of its effect on a child's well-being and, for that matter, all of us, the adults as well. The average Canadian child is sedentary about 9.5 hours a day. Of that 9.5 hours a day, our kids are on screen times for about 9 of those hours a day. 1 in 3 of kids in Ontario are dealing with overweight and obesity issues and all the associated health risks, both mental and physical, that go along with that. Our kids are in what might be called a sleep-edemic. Participation has pointed to this as their theme of their latest report card, where our kids are really clearly not getting the sleep that they need to achieve well-being. Most of our kids, in fact, 2/3 of our kids are not getting active transportation. And 1 in 5 of our kids we know are challenged with mental health issues that make each day a bit tougher to get through. So why do we need to get kids moving? Because we know active kids are happier, healthier, and they learn better. Dr. John Rady, the author of Spark, talks about the huge effects that exercise has on the body. While we know there are so many positive effects for our body, the biggest bang for a buck is in the brain, and it's for the brain. Consider these two scans that you see of a child that's been sitting for 20 minutes and one that has had after 20 minutes of walking. So look at those key areas of the brain that are linked to learning. One child that's been sitting, all those key areas that allow a child to be their best academic versions of themselves are shut down. The areas that are lit up are the key areas that are going to allow a child to truly be the most successful person that they can be in the classroom. They would be things like being able to self-regulate, remembering the things and being able to access prior learning, being able to focus and concentrate. Why do active kids learn better? Well, every time we move, every time we get active, we literally change the chemistry of the brain. Through that movement, it releases what's known as BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which Dr. John Rady calls miracle growth for the brain. It keeps that brain plastic, growing, sprouting new brain cells, and making those connections that a kid needs to be a learner. Every time kids move, it turns on the attention, motivation, and memory systems. And the upside is 60 minutes of calm and clarity that a child can concentrate and be in that place where they're ready to be their best learner. It physically transforms the brain. Body wellness, long and the short of it. We need to aim for that 60 minutes a day. We need to meet that Canada guideline over the course of a day. It could be in short bursts, 2 to 3 minutes just prior to a particular piece of learning. It could be for a longer stretch, but we want to provide every child that opportunity to get that time. We have to be aware of our sedentary time over the course of the day and give kids time to get up. We should aim to get kids up and moving about every 30 minutes. We want to champion and advocate for inclusive programs that are for all our kids, not just for the most able, not just for the most physically illiterate, but for all our kids so that they can find physical activity and find the joy of moving in a school program or in a community-based program. We need to take the learning outside, because when we take the learning outside again, we also change the chemistry of the brain, and it provides for a whole other set of opportunities to achieve physical and mental wellness. We need to support healthy sleep patterns, encourage healthy eating, and and hydration patterns. All those pieces together support body wellness. I pass it over to Heather.
When we're talking about the spirit, we're talking about a connection to something bigger or other than oneself. And for many people, that is about citizenship, active citizenship we promote in schools, and for a lot of people, just being a Canadian citizen is a big piece of their identity. It can be about religion, and we need to honor that. It can also be about family for some people, being outside in nature, as Dave mentioned, and of course my favorite, a connection to animals. We have to honor the spiritual part of every person. And what we're really talking about here is equity. Fairness is not sameness, and we ask our educators every day to ask themselves, what is the learning about this student at this time? And if we look at the 4 quadrants and look at the needs of each individual student, then we are truly achieving equity. This is our board improvement plan for this year, and you can see at the bottom that Feed All 4 supports all that we do in Trillium Lakelands. This is our strategic directions document that was based on the voice of community members, teachers, and also staff and students within the board. And you can see that well-being rose to the top as a priority for the board from now right through to 2021. So how does Feed All 4 live in Trillium Lakelands? We've got some pretty exciting examples to show you. And Dave's such an exciting guy, we're gonna let him do that.
So we've said from the get-go that Feed All 4 is not an initiative. Sometimes people feel that initiatives come and go, and it may not, or it may take root. We said it's a way of being. We wanted it to be more than just something that was just kind of coming through that we test out. We wanted it to become a fabric of who and what we are, a fabric of our being as part of our overall school and community culture. So when we look at some of the different aspects of the quadrants, when we look at emotional well-being, we look at when we take kids outside for outdoor learning, consider the incredible opportunities to practice mindfulness. These kids have had the great opportunity of learning some mindfulness strategies that they'll carry with them through life. The Roots of Empathy program is a fabulous program whereby it's at about 75% of our schools right now, with the hope that by the end of next year it'll be across our entire system. Roots of Empathy gives kids an opportunity to build compassion, and it's proven to reduce aggression in kids as well, and increases and that ability to increase empathy. Here is an exciting day where kids are integrating wellness in their literacy, where they're out enjoying a Robert Munch story on National Literacy Day. When we talk about mind wellness, we talk about providing opportunities for rich learning, for engaged learning, and giving them opportunities to truly make connections outside of that classroom. When we look at where body wellness is living, our phys ed teachers are seeing the necessity and the key role that fitness plays in phys ed programs, getting those heart rates up, giving kids an opportunity to truly change chemistries of the brain, because there's so many studies point to the benefit of an increased heart rate and academic scores. So fitness becomes a key piece of a phys ed program. And you know, the piece that you see beside, the tweet beside, points to the role that we look at as educators when we do our professional learning, giving opportunities for DPA, for movement breaks in our staff learning as well. And those are great times to walk the talk. Here's a school that has student leadership crews, and those crews are working hard to carve out the way they want their school to look, the powerful opportunity of student voice, and whereby they're creating that environment that they truly want to live and learn in. Here's a crew creating a great opportunity for healthy eating. At this particular high school, these students in the art department connected with local Native elders, learned about the important different symbols in the First Nations culture, and incorporated that into their bowls. The hospitality students filled those bowls with a nutritious and a delicious soup. Members of the community came in, paid for that soup in those bowls, and that became a fabulous fundraiser for homeless folks in that community. Here's a group that you'll see, and I'm sure we see in so many schools across our system in this province, where kids are reaching out to support those in need in their community. And here's a group doing their Christmas food drive. It's all about partnerships. As we say in our board, we truly are better together. As we've seen at this conference, through our partnerships, we're able to achieve the kinds of things that we're striving to do. And here you'll see a number of our so valued community partners as we go ahead with our Feed All For work across the system. Our staff are seeing and valuing and jumping in and focusing on their well-being, because they know if they're well, the likelihood of their kids being well is more likely. And so here you see a happy staff enjoying a great after-school activity. And here you see some EAs on their professional learning day getting some cycling in. There's links between gratitude and well-being. We've seen correlations in so many studies, and our kids are looking firsthand at that and practicing that on a daily basis. Social media has been such a powerful tool to connect us and to share the kinds of promising practices that are going out across the system, and through Facebook, through Twitter, and that's providing us an opportunity to see and to realize how it really is becoming a way of being for us. We hope that you will join us on this journey of Feeding All For, and join us on hashtag #FeedAllFor and hashtag HealthyTLDSB, or visit us at feedallfor.ca. Just a question as we wrap up. I want you to consider how you're feeding all for today. Thanks so much for this, and have a great day.